Morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 69 in the book of Genesis. We're in Genesis chapter 12 today. Please turn there. We're going to learn about the blessing of the people of God. And so here's today's title is When God Appears, Build an Altar, because that's what Abraham does. Abram is what he's still called. This is chapter 12. I'm going to read yesterday's passage, which is 12:1 through 3. Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. So this is miraculous in itself, that God would care, that he would come. And in the book of Genesis so far, we've been awed in sort of a very big picture by creation and the fall and the flood. It's been sort of epic. And now we microtize it down to a man and a man's family and a future family and his interaction with God. And the crazy thing is he doesn't have any family, has no descendants whatsoever at this time. So you have this tension of the trust before you get the promise. And he's trusting in the person of God before the promises of God. This is what faith is. Faith is trusting in the person of God before the promises of God are evident, before you see the end point. So we have Mr. Exalted Father, so to speak, that's what Abram means, with no children. And we have a future people of Abraham. These are people from the Hebrews, who's Abraham's great-grandfather, which is where we get the name Hebrews. But wait, there's more. So the blessing isn't just to Abraham. It's to the people that are not of Abraham. All the families of the earth are going to be blessed through this family. So if you want a blessing from God, you have to come through this family. If you want a blessing from God, you have to come through this God. All right, let me finish the passage here. So I'm going to go into verse 4 of chapter 12. So Abraham went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abraham took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions and all that they had gathered, and the people that they had acquired in Haran. And they set out to go to the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abraham passed through the land to the place at Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. Now here's verse 7. Pay attention to this. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring I will give this land. So he, Abram, built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he moved to the hill country on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai as the name of the town, on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord. He called upon the name of the Lord. And Abraham journeyed on, still going toward the Negev. So this section of the story starts that Abraham goes. So the Lord says to him, Abraham, go, and Abraham goes as the Lord tells him. So God is in this from the first step of Abraham. And verse 7 here is this first theophany, the appearance to the patriarchs. By the patriarchs we mean Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now the Lord had spoken to him early on in chapter 12 and told him to go, but hadn't appeared to him. So now we get this appearance. And it's almost as if it's, I don't want to say a reward, but it's a response to he's already been obedient. So the Lord says something, Abraham is obedient. Then the Lord appears. And perhaps we can also learn to be obedient first before we get this great revelation where our faith doesn't have to be, we don't have to be faithful, and the Lord actually kind of appears to us in an intimate sort of a way. Remember what faith is faith is how we respond and how we think about God before we get the promises seen. So the appearances here now are going to be associated with God's promises. Now, whenever God appears, whatever he says is a promise, because it's either currently true, it's either past true, or it's going to be future true. There's no untrue that comes out. So anything that comes out of the mouth of God is going to be a promise. And what he says is, to your offspring, quote unquote, to your offspring, Abraham, which he has zero of, this is the faith before sight, might be related to the offspring, because now he sees the Lord, and what is he going to have to be faithful of? He's going to have to be faithful for this offspring. And what I love here is, first of all, there's a land association. So there's an absolute association with acreage in this promise to Abraham. And his response is an altar. It's an appreciation. It's an altar to the one who appears. So at Shechem, specific place, under the oak of Moriah, smack dab in the center of Israel. If I give you a map of Israel today, I said, put a pin in the exact center of Israel. That's where he is, right there in Shechem, by the oak of Moriah. And there's no central sanctuary. There's no Jerusalem. There's no temple. There's no even tabernacle. But what Abram does is said, I've had the Lord appear to me, and I'm going to give my praise to you right here in this way. Then he moves 25 miles to the south to Ai on the east and Bethel on the west. They're only about a mile apart, so it's a very specific location. And there he builds a second altar, a second response to God. So just let's make a couple conclusions today. If you want a blessing of God, you have to come through this family. So it's great that you're here, great that we're learning about Abraham, because there's no other family through which the promises of God are enacted. If you want a blessing from God, you have to come through this particular God as well. And let's not take lightly this theophany, this Lord appearing in verse 7 today. It's the appearance of God himself to Abram. It's an observable manifestation. It's kind of his burning bush, as you will. And remember when Jesus came down to our planet, and first there was one angel, and then there was this host of, probably hundreds of thousands of angels. This is a moment of that order. It's a big moment on the earth-heaven relationship. And when God appears, when you hear from God, so I'm putting this now into us, when we hear from God, let's make an altar, which I just mean by stop, give praise right here, right now. Hey, I saw God. I heard from God. And I'm building an altar right here. Something happened right here. I saw you in this place. I heard from you in your word. I heard from you in your church or in a sermon, or I was convicted about something. Let's embrace that conviction and build an altar. When God appears, let's build an altar of recognition and give you praise right here. Thanks for listening.